we talk about this conversation, like my book, Fire Yourself. It's like, well, I like my job or I like what I do. I don't want to fire myself. Well, it's like, well, sometimes it's not always in your control because what happens if you have a family member that has a crisis or a health issue, or maybe you have a health issue? Are you able to have, is your income based on simply you going to work or you being in the business? Or is it something that things can operate and you still generate revenue even without you being there? So that's really the question of is.
Welcome to the Effortlessly Abundant Life podcast. I'm Natalia, a certified hypnotherapist and a mindset shifter. Not too long ago, I was a broke, burned out, multi-passionate, single woman to now making six figures effortlessly, marrying the love of my life and attracting what I want by using my unique bridge method. I'm here to help you achieve the results you want in any area of your life by owning your true unique self with less doing, less stress, and definitely less effort. Now let's jump to today's episode in 3, 2, 1. So hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Effortlessly Abundant Life podcast. I have a special guest for you guys today. His name is Bronson Hill. And he is the author of Fire Yourself and another upcoming book that we're going to talk about, and all these kind of amazing adventures that he was doing in the business world, in the investing world, in the coaching world. And I'm so excited to dive in. And I want him actually to introduce himself. So with no further ado, here you go, Bronson. The stage is yours.
Hey, thanks so much, Natalia. Great to be here. I love talking about effortlessly abundant life. That's amazing. That's what we all want, right? So looking at my background, I was a medical device sales representative. So I went into surgery wearing scrubs. I worked with heart surgeons mostly. Was making $250,000 a year. I had a great job. It was good. There were a lot of great things about it. The thing that I didn't have is I didn't have control over my time. And I think this is something a lot of professionals can relate with. There were a couple of doctors I worked with actually that were cardiologists that made over $2 million each a year. And yet they were working 60 to 80 hours a week every week. And it was hard to take vacations. They didn't come to work. They didn't get paid. So they were still doing a time for money trade. And so really a lot of people say they want financial freedom. But really what people wanted, what I wanted, was time freedom, right? To be able to take vacations, to be able to do the things, create the things I wanted to create. So was able to learn about investing in real estate. I started doing single family. I realized that was not going to get me as quick as there's some challenges with investing in single family. It's not bad. It just takes a very long time. And when I started to find apartment buildings, I started to find other types of investments that are much higher cash flow and that can really help build wealth over time. I learned about that and started raising money for real estate and other investments. And so now fast forward, it's been 6 years, left my corporate job a few years ago. I've raised about $50 million, which sounds crazy, from different retail investors. And basically, I've just written this book called Fire Yourself, basically how to replace your working income with passive income in 3 years or less. And I just love talking about how to create that abundant life that you're creating for folks as well.
Incredible. So I love that you talked about it's not about the money, it's about the freedom. Because again, you can create a business, or you can have a real estate kind of business where it's passive, quote unquote, but it sucks up your time. And it's just a lot of, as you know, construction and everything involving tenants or anything like that. It's sometimes more time consuming than we think. And it's not as passive as we think. But it's really about taking control of your time and what is this the kind of life that you want to create for yourself. So let's go back to that place where you were in the surgery room, you said, right? You were, yeah. How did you feel? Like, how did you even thought about, like, wait, I see these people making $2 million. I see where this road is going to take me. How did you even come to that realization? Like, this is not for me. I don't want to be part of this rat race.
Yeah. Well, I realized, I think it just kind of happened over time, is that I realized in sales and a lot of jobs that are high pressure jobs, there's kind of this like bigger, better everything, right? You just have to do bigger, better, especially in sales. And it's like, you have a great quarter, your manager calls you and then, hey, come on, sell more. So you sell as many widgets or whatever you're selling as you can. And then you get that, figurative slap on the back. Hey, great job. Now do it again and do better next quarter. So it's kind of like you're continually doing this. And what happens is it's such a hustle. And I'm not a big believer in hustle culture. I think you can do it for a short amount of time. So for a while I was doing my full-time job. I kind of dialed that back a little bit and I was really building on the other side. So there was a couple of years where I was doing both, but it's not really a sustainable long-term model. Really, if people just hustle, you're really living to work rather than working to live, right? So you really you're not doing it the right way. And I think as Americans in general, we work way more than other countries. The average American takes 13 days off a year, and in Italy, to contrast it, it's 42 work days, which is about 8.5 work weeks, right? That on the average person takes off. So not like 2.5 weeks like in the U.S. That includes sick time, right? So it's just this idea if we can create more time freedom for ourselves, what would our life look like? If I was financially free, like if I asked the listener or you, hey, if I gave you whatever that number is, 100,000, $1 million per year, you had enough to cover all your living expenses, live how you wanted. What would you actually do with your time? And I don't think it's necessarily about just simply traveling the world, putting your, living the yachts and Mai Tai lifestyle. I think that's great. There's a lot of people that, oh, that's amazing. You can do that for a week or a month or whatever. But actually, when it comes down to purpose and what we're here to do, most people are disengaged with their jobs. They don't enjoy what they do. There's kind of this soul crushing element of it. And I really wanted to create something for myself that I could build that it would really kind of create that, as Warren Buffett says, the ability to make money while you sleep, right? So he says the quote, unless you learn how to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. And so I just want to figure out, like, well, what does that look like? How can I actually figure out how to have my money start working for me rather than me only just working for the money?
So you felt the job that you did wasn't fulfilling for you anymore? You just felt like burned out physically, mentally, emotionally? Like, take me there. What
Yeah.
was happening there?
Was the moment. Well, I think the moment really was, I had this dream in my heart to be an entrepreneur, to really create my own
Mm,
thing. And I didn't want to be, 75 or 80 years old and think, I just wish I would have tried. I wish I would have gone. What if I actually, maybe it didn't work, but at least I tried. At least I did everything I could. I think so much of our life is spent like not taking risks, not taking chances. And it's like when we don't take chances, we can't really get to the next level. We can't, I've just realized so much of what we want is outside of our comfort zone. And so as I've stepped out, I'm sure for you developing the great business that you have and the things that you've done, it's just, when we step out, it doesn't always work, but if we can do it in such ways that we're trying new things, we're stepping out. And it was like, for me, I was kind of terrified to leave my job. Even when I started doing real estate, I started kind of doing this on the side because I realized I wanted more income. I wanted to be able to create my own thing and eventually transition. But when I had enough income, I was making more than I was in my medical job doing real estate and doing some of these investments. I was scared to leave because all of my family are teachers. They're like, why would you leave your 250K a year job? It's the golden handcuffs, right? Like, why would you ever leave?
exactly.
So, and then I had this group of entrepreneurs that I got in the room with for, it was an entrepreneurs group. We got together once a month for 4 hours. And after like 6 months, I
Wow.
just shared like, here's where I'm at. I want to leave my job. And they all listened to how I made money and stuff. And they said, you should leave. They all pretty much said, you should leave your job pretty much as soon as possible. And if it doesn't
Mhm.
work out, you can always go back to medical sales. And it was kind of like, oh, I just hadn't really figured that, like, oh, if it doesn't work, there is a way to go back. So it's funny in our minds, we make it like this big, huge thing. But to me, again, I didn't want to live with regret and feel like, what if I wish I had tried to do this.
Oof. There's so many ways I want to take it. Let me just readdress. For me, when I felt like enough is enough and start to wake up to this concept, like I don't have to work a certain time for a certain year to have maybe 10 years of freedom in the end of my life when I'm barely like walking and talking, right? It just didn't make sense to me as well. But I think was the biggest wake up call for me was during COVID. I think that truly forced me to sit down and just be with my thoughts, be with my heart. And obviously everything shut down in New York in construction, everything shut down. Everybody, all the buildings were just not accepting any work, even if you were essential worker. And it really kind of, I looked back and I said, wow, I just don't want to come back to it because it's hard while you're in that race to
Yeah.
really take yourself out of it. And I think COVID, it was hard as it was such a blessing because it really forced me to look at it and start asking myself the questions.
Yeah.
And then me becoming a mom 3 years ago, then
Amazing.
I'm thinking, okay, what kind of values I want to instill to my son? What kind of family I want to have? Do I want to be a present mom? Do I want to just send my kid after 6 weeks to a daycare? Is that the person and the parent that I want to be? And the answer is no. But I also wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be in the career that I built. I wanted to do that and continue to do it. So it's almost like how you do all these things, right? How we
Yeah.
do it in a way that we still have the security, we still have what we call a family life, we have our personal life, we also have our passions. So, what would you tell to somebody that is right now in this kind of pivotal point where he's like waking up and saying, you know what, enough is enough. I can't do this any longer. What would be the first step for them to kind of start building this path of either passive income or maybe start working on their mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're both connected. I love you shared. I love your story as well. And I think so often we get stuck in the day to day of life that we don't have a chance to take off and reflect and be like, am I getting the results that I want to get out of my life? Otherwise, we just kind of sit in this thing. I've got to go to work. I've got to do this. I got family. And it's like we don't really allow ourselves the space. And so one thing I do is once a quarter, I try to get away for 2 nights and just go and reflect on the business, on my life, on the spiritual stuff, things I'm trying to do, family, all those things. Because again, it's life is just simply like you get out what you put in, and if something doesn't work in what you're doing, if you're not getting the results you want, it's important to step back. And a lot of times, I think we can think, hey, I've been doing this for years. I've been doing this job, whatever. And we see other people making moves and doing things, and we're like, well, that's not me, that's them. But it can be any one of us can make moves. So I think the first thing is to stop and figure out what it is that you really want. Really, there's kind of an exercise we do. We say, okay, for you, there's three different levels of financial freedom, right? The first one really is kind of your rat race number, or like what's the number that kind of like you're not replacing necessarily your income. For me, it wasn't 250K a year I needed to make. I figure for me, it wasn't like I lived pretty simply. It was about 6K a month, so about 72,000 a year. If I could cover that, I could live. I could have my payments, everything covered. I could travel. I could do all the things I wanted to do, and that was enough, right? So to me, it was that number. If I could get to that number, then it was if I could replace the income, or then if I get to like a level of real financial freedom where it's like, hey, I can whatever I want to do, I'm just totally have the finances to do that. So I think the first thing is figuring out what is it you want to do, and is that something that someone wants? A lot of times we talk about this conversation, like my book Fire Yourself. It's like, well, I like my job, or I like what I do. I don't want to fire myself. Well, it's like, well, sometimes it's not always in your control, because what happens if you have a family member that has a crisis or a health issue, or maybe you have a health issue? Are you able to have, is your income based on simply you going to work or you being in the business, or is it something that things can operate and you still generate revenue even without you being there? So that's really the question of, is something passive or is it active? But I started to kind of get this years ago, and I realized, man, passive income is so much more powerful than active income, because if it's active, you got to work for it. If it's passive, it works for you. So the idea of just, what if I had all the money I need, what would I be doing with my time? What are the things that are most important? Would I write the book? It says something like 85% of people say they have a book in them, but only 0.5% have actually written a book, right? And it's a lot of work writing a book, but like, I think writing the book, or taking the trips, or spending those family memories. I'm taking my daughter to Alaska for the first time for her to go up there this summer. We're going to go do a
Oh
camping
my
trip in the Seattle
God.
area and another
So
trip. So
jealous.
yeah. But it's like these things, we can create these things, right? So we're powerful people. We don't have to let life happen to us. We can actually do it. So I think for anyone, I think the first thing is just to figure out, are you getting the results that you want? And if not, if you're unhappy, if you're like, hey, I hope I'd be further along, then just, take a step back and don't judge yourself, but just say like, well, I maybe need to change the inputs or the goals that I have because it's not working to where I want it to go.
100%. And I think also, it's the results, right? And understanding there's many ways to get to the results. We've been trained and we thought that only through hard work and sacrifice and this glamorized kind of, you're getting award for coming to the office at 7 a.m. and leaving at 7 p.m. You consider to be a more loyal and more trustworthy. And that is absolutely a lie. I would not want to hire somebody that is absolutely has zero boundaries, that is a people pleaser, that is doesn't really honor themselves. And it's something that is important. I think that America is kind of idolizes, but it's truth that it's not, as you said, it's not sustainable. And also it's not effective. And it's not effective. And the results, actually, what I found, well, I don't know about you, but I found the power of subconscious mind that is in charge of 98% of our reality.
Yeah.
Like, how can I use my mindset, my energy, my subconscious, what creates my reality to be this passive income for me, create these streams of income for me, do the heavy lifting for me? Because a lot of it, we don't know how we're going to do it. We don't know when is it going to happen. But if I'm going to set myself up as what it is that I want, and not afraid to say it out loud and see how things gonna come out. And it's exactly what happened to me when I said, okay, I don't want to send my son to daycare. I want to be a present mom, but
Yeah.
yet I still want to be in my job. I still want to have this income. I still want to have my coaching. I still want to have all these things. I know there's not a lot of examples out there of people doing it, but if I want it, it must be a possibility, right?
Yeah.
And just be able to say it out loud. And suddenly things came to my ideas and mind that I didn't even think about, like certain accounts that I thought about instead of working, as sales, you as a salesperson, like either you can focus on the small person that gives you one job or one, let's say, product once in a while, versus to have, let's say, somebody that is going to give you this consistent, is going to use it consistently, and you did the initial effort first, but you don't need to continue and like working hard for each sale for each month, right?
Yeah.
So thinking about how to create it more smartly and not working hard. And as I said, like mindset is everything.
Mhm.
Mindset is truly everything. And then the how, the way is just going to come. And that's the beauty of it. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
100%. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I've had a breakthrough in my mindset different times, and it's led to almost always a breakthrough in my business or my life. I was able to basically 20x my net worth to multiple seven figures in about 4 years, right? And that happened
Wow.
through changing mindset and really
So what was
changing.
that for you? What was your biggest limited belief, let's say?
Well, it's interesting in my new book that I'm writing right now, Fire Yourself was the first book. The second book, I've been able to interview 2,500 millionaires. And so I spent a lot of time just going into like, well, what are the things that really limited them and how did they grow? And it really started this concept. It was parallel for me as well. This idea I call wealth worthiness. I've never really heard anybody talk about this specifically, but we see this in somebody, well, typically who's making $100,000, they'll kind of find a way to make about $100,000. Somebody's making $1 million, we'll kind of figure out a way to kind of do that. And what happens for a lot of people is they'll start out with 100,000, they'll either regress or stay the same, or they'll make incremental improvements. So they go from a $100,000 job, they'll make 150, then they'll go to 200, 250. And they'll kind of make these kind of perpetual jumps up. But I've seen people like myself where they'll make these big jumps in a very short period of time. And
Mhm.
really what happens is it's through this idea of wealth worthiness. So it also exists. It's really what it is. It's how, do I feel worthy of having a certain level of wealth? Now we can say it, we can feel like we believe it, but a lot of times our actions, we can actually self-sabotage. We get into deals that don't work out. Doesn't mean if you have wealth worthiness, deals will never work out. But you see this also in relationships, right? If I'm a single guy, I walk into a room and I'm at a party and I see a beautiful woman and I go talk to her. But my self-talk is, oh, I'm not good looking. She's not going to like me, whatever. We all have this self-talk we play with. But if that's a self-talk, like that conversation is probably never going to happen. Or if it does, it's probably not going to go very well, right? Versus if I say, I'm a
It's
great
very
guy. I've got
awkward.
something
Yeah.
to, yeah, exactly. But if I say, hey, I've really got something to offer. I'm a great guy and she'd be lucky to talk to me. I wouldn't necessarily say that out loud, but like if I come from a place of worthiness that I deserve to be in a great relationship, it can be a very different potential of how we show up. So this exists when it comes to money as well. Is how we show up. The universe responds to this type of thing. So almost every single person that I've talked to, I know a number of people worth over 10 million. A lot of these people that I talked with, almost all of them are over like 2 million, or 2 million was kind of the average, but some are 10, 20, 30. You have some people I know is worth hundreds of millions. And they all have, almost everybody has some sort of mindset practice where they're basically doing affirmations, they're doing visualizations,
Mm.
they're doing things where they're creating the future and they're basically living that out, right? So how do you
Wow.
really change that? Is you have these practices that can really change your wealth worthiness. You walk into a situation and this happened to me recently where I've basically been creating this around myself that I'm a 10x type of person. I have 10x the type of wealth. I have these type of relationships, whatever. And so I had an experience. We do different types of deals. We're doing deals in oil and gas and private equity, and we're doing real estate and other things. And this deal came around that's a little bit outside our wheelhouse, but it's a much, much higher cash flow deal. And it would be, we get it done. It's about a 5 or 10x type of deal in our business where we'll 5 or 10x the profit we have. And I almost missed it, but because I've been doing some of these
Wow.
mindset work, these practices, I was able to see it and I was able to be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's actually move forward with this. And so we're hoping to close on the next couple of weeks, but it's like, just the idea that like, this is how people see things that are in the future for them and they move towards them, right? They start creating that person because the 10X version of you, this 10X is wealthy or 10X is, in any area of your life, it's a different person. That's a different person than you are right now. So if you start visualizing that, Napoleon Hill, we're not related, even though they're the same last name, but in his book, Think and Grow Rich,
I was about to say.
he's my cousin. He's my cousin. My
Yeah,
uncle.
right? That'll be nice.
But he says this. Says this. Spend 30 minutes a day imagining the person that you intend to become. Right,
Hmm.
thinking about visualizing what does that person look like, because it's a different person than the way we react and we're in situations now. So I think that there's a lot of work there, a lot of thoughts there of this idea of wealth worthiness. I could talk more about it, but I think it's just something that people have to realize. Like there can be limiters that are causing people to self sabotage, procrastinate, or get in the way of them moving to the next level financially.
It's so interesting working with so many clients, and now I actually release an app. And one of the things that I see constantly is the biggest issue of all is worthiness, a feeling not worthy to receive big amounts of money,
Yeah.
feeling it's just like, again, it's this like conditional love for themselves. Like, I am not worthy of a healthy relationship. I'm not worthy of having big sums of money and a successful business because I don't feel I didn't work hard enough for it. Or who am I to have it? Or I don't have enough knowledge, or I'm not, it's just incredible like how many of us don't feel good enough of
Yeah.
just, in my opinion, like as I see it, we are an extension of source, right? We are
Yeah.
here as maybe we're wearing this human suit, but we're just light extension of source. And I think like the creator, this is the biggest thing you can be or part of. I think just by being born, we are worthy to have anything we want. And it's just incredible how we don't see the tree as asking for wordiness to receive water or or whatever nutrients it needs to grow, or we don't see animals feeling unworthy to, or if you have a new baby born, right, they just give all the love and attention. They don't ask for wordiness of receiving an attention or food. Again, it's just such a concept that we've been taught,
Yeah.
and because it's been taught, we can also unlearn it. And it
Mhm.
takes deliberate every single day. And we always have the upper limit, right? Even if you think, okay, you're making multiple six, now we got to get to the seven and the eight and the nine. And again, it's not about the numbers, it's more about the person it's like how much you can take all these restraints you put on yourself. That is the representation of money, but it's, as we know, it's not just money, it's so much more than that. It's to
Yeah.
feel this like, how can I be more closer to source? How can I be closer to who am I really am, which is pure light, and
Mm.
enjoy whatever it is to be, a human being means
Yeah.
without constraining yourself.
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll give an example, a personal example. So I went through a divorce, unfortunately, about 8 years ago, and I just came through it, and I just felt, no sense of self-worth, no sense of self-confidence, just felt really low. And so I started actually doing affirmations, which people have, kind of a weird connotation about like that. But the funny thing is, people that are wealthy, like a lot of people do these kind of things, visualizations, affirmations, and I call them, I call the ones that they're a little bit shift on affirmations. They're called whisperings because it's not just looking at
Mm.
yourself in a mirror. It's what you whisper to yourself when you're in
Mm.
the room and you're going to have that conversation with that beautiful woman, or you're going into a business deal or an interview or something. What are you saying to yourself? And so I started doing these whisperings that were just things like, I'm worthy of love and belonging. I'm loved by God. I'm loved by people. I deserve great relationships. I started saying these things, and it felt kind of a little like cheesy at first, but over
Right.
time, it probably took about 6 months. I started to really feel that start to emanate from the inside. And so then I would walk into a room and I'd feel like I own the room. Like that's one of my whisperings is I own the room with the confidence and the authority of a king, right? I walk in with that. It feels say
I
that, but like I walk
love
in
that.
and and it comes from the inside. So the idea of like, I really believe that we create with our words, and when we say things, it actually creates a reality and a possibility for us. And for spiritual context, whatever somebody's faith is, I'm a Christian, but the idea of like, in the beginning, God created, and He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And so, just the
Mhm.
idea of speaking something out, there's a creation that our words have creative power. So we have death and life. So if we speak something positive, it actually can be created. So I think if somebody wants to change this, you have to really pay attention to the words that you're saying to yourself. And I'm really uptight about it when somebody says something, oh, shame on me or shame on you, or these kind of, they say things that are negative about themselves or others. I'm really like those have a lot of power. Be careful what you're saying. Not like it's like a voodoo thing, but like it's just whatever you're saying has a consequence. So if I want great things in my life, I have to be speaking those great things. I have to be visualizing them. I got to be kind of moving towards those with my words, and then I begin to see breakthroughs in those areas because I'm actually creating those things. So again, it's not something most people think of, but again, people that are very wealthy, they almost all have some sort of practice around words, visualization, or mindset. And so again, if you want to be just like everybody else, don't do it. But people that are really successful, they have written goals, they have things that they do every day, they have things that are really intentional around this.
So affirmations, one of the takes that I saw with my clients and myself included, a lot of them don't work because they affirm whatever it is you already believe. So if let's say I'm a billionaire, but I'm not. And my subconscious, like, you're lying to yourself. That is the conflict and restriction, and then you feel more shitty about yourself. So actually
Right.
what really worked for me, maybe you want to try it. I do an ask formation. So
Oh,
our brain is trained to answer questions, right? So if you say, how am I the most wealthy and abundant person right now? And then you start looking for evidence. And then this new pathway in your
yeah.
brain start to be stronger and stronger. And you start to looking for these evidence. And it's kind of like the red car syndrome, right? If I'm going to tell you, think about red car, suddenly everywhere you go, you're going to find a red car. If I'm going to start asking the question, how am I abundant right now? How am I desired right now? How am I the most desired man in this room? You're going to look for the answer, and your brain is going to actually start focusing on that. So that is kind of like how I found a hack
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
kind of kind of eliminate the resistance. But it's definitely interesting. The words are spells and there are vibrations, and whatever you put out, as we see, it's always come back to us. So be very careful what you say to yourself and what it is you're putting outside. So let's go back to that moment where you worked two jobs, right? You were
Yeah.
working the 200K job, which was obviously very demanding. Sales is not easy. It takes a lot of energy from you. And also building this passive, like, how did you do it all?
Well, I think I don't. It's a good question. I mean, I think that you can look at things and see. Okay, what do I really want? Again, coming back to that question of what I really want. If something is really important, you'll work at it. It doesn't matter if it gets done today or it takes years to get done. If you're committed to what that thing is, you'll get it, right? And so
Right.
to me, and I'm a big one that's like I'm willing to try new things because I see opportunity there. And so, Tony Robbins will say have the end goal in mind and then continually change your approach, right? So, okay, I tried option A, which was I'm looking at this area of real estate. Well, this didn't really seem to work. Or let me try this one. Well, this kind of worked okay, but this didn't work. And then I tried C, and I was like, oh, this one really could be. This could be potentially a way to get there. So this idea of like, again, it goes back to that like the visualizing what you want. So keeping the goal in mind, changing your approach, and then thinking through, okay, like to go 10x. Let's say if I make 200,000 a year, what would it be to make $2 million a year, right? Well, there may only be one or two ways that I see to get there. If not, I'm going to keep looking and trying to find new ways. So for me, when I discovered this way, which for me was basically raising capital for real estate, which just means raising money from other people. So the idea of like you can use your own money to do real estate, or you can. That's some people say that's a little selfish. Why wouldn't you include other people and raise money from them too? And so what I did is I started around that time I started a meetup in Los Angeles. We had 60 people at the first meeting. I basically partnered with somebody who had a local
Wow.
meetup, and I basically was there. And I was there's a difference between being an expert and a leader. An expert knows all the content, and a leader is just simply at the front of the room asking dumb questions, but yet you're in the front of the room. So I was a leader. I was not an expert. And this guy comes up to me after the first meeting, never met him before, and he says, "Hey, I do one of your deals." And I was like, "Are you talking to me?" Like, I was surprised, my sales background kind of perked up. Well, let me get coffee with this guy. And so basically, I connected with him, and I gave him a sample deal. He's like, "Yeah, I would invest in something like this and put 100,000 in." So I connected him with another guy in the room who had a deal, was looking for money. So I connected the two of them. That was the first money that I raised. And then the hardest part is just the getting started, right? Getting started in that. And then I found another partner about 6 months later after working that we worked together and just try to help with his community to help raise money. So we raised about $15 million together. So while I was doing all of this, I mean, the $15 million just sounds really easy, but it was 1,000 one-on-one phone calls over
Mm.
18 months while I was still working my full-time job. So
Oof.
how did I do that? There were two shifts that I had to do. One is I had to say, go from being a rock star sales rep of like top 10% winning awards to coach myself that it's okay if I'm mediocre here, right? Nobody's watching my hours.
Oh, we can't. What do you mean?
This was hard. You're an achiever as well. So it's
Exactly.
like I could go from 40 hours a week or whatever, working 40 plus hours a week. Can I do this in 30 hours a week, or can I do it in 20 hours a week? Can I kind of, COVID was about that time too. So I was able to kind of do some of that, but then I scaled up on the other side. I'm going to put in more time over here. I'm going to put more effort over here because this is the future. This is where I want to go. So I realized I was doing something that wasn't really sustainable for the long term. And so I
Mhm.
had a lot of incentive to say, okay, can I do 25, 30 hours a week in my regular job? Can I do, 30 hours a week over here on the real estate side and the investing side? And it just allowed me to realize like, okay, I don't think this is going to be forever, but it's something that I do want to create enough income and hopefully, it's at the right time. I might lose the first thing, but it's like, this is where I want to go anyway. And so at the right time it happened. I had a boss that kind of saw some of my posts of what I was doing online. I was like, what's this? What are you doing? And
Oh
sales is
my
all about,
goodness. What
it's
did
all
you do?
about, well, it's all about perception, right? People just think like,
Right.
'cause if you don't go in an office, like, what are you actually doing? So, but at the right time, it kind of like, there was some destruction there, but it just became in the sense that like, it was like, I got to kind of choose, but it was like, I was ready to make the move. So sometimes when we're shifting from one thing to another, we have to be willing to work a little harder in that season. We've got to be
Mhm.
willing to see what we want to see. And then really move towards it and be willing to kind of coach ourselves that hey, this new version of myself doesn't necessarily have to be a rock star in everything, right? I can be okay in this, what I was great at, and that was hard, but I made the shift. And when I made it, I was very happy. I've been very happy since. It hasn't been easy. It's been a roller coaster at times, but it's been also a lot of fun.
So how long you been doing those two together? How
Well,
long?
I did it together for about, well, I told myself as well. I said, I'm gonna in 3 years. I don't know how I'm gonna leave my job, but I'm gonna find a way to leave my job. I'm gonna find a way to cover, to be making six figures by doing this, real estate or other thing. I didn't know exactly how it was, so I made that commitment, and then it was just about 3 years, a little less than 3 years, I was able to leave. So I've been gone now for about 3.5 years, where I'm only full time doing investing, working with investors, creating content, doing all the stuff that we're doing in our investing side. So I did it together
Wow.
for about 2.5, 3 years, and then it's been almost 2.5, 3 years. I've been kind of out of my corporate job.
It's amazing. Okay, tell me about leaving the job. Was that hard for you?
Yeah, it is. It's hard. I come from a family of teachers. If you've read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a great book
Yeah.
on investing, if listeners have not read that book, that's like book number one to learn about investing.
Hmm.
And so it says, if you read that book, his dad was basically working in education, was at the college, working for the state of Hawaii as a educational guy. My whole family's in education, right? So what is that? That's a safe, secure job with benefits and a pension, right? So that's my dad. That's my mom is a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. My sister is a teacher. My aunt and uncle are teachers. Everybody's teachers, right? So then the idea of entrepreneurship is like on the other spectrum, right? So is it hard to leave? It's like, yes, because the people you're listening to, they really impact the decisions you make. And so that's where having that entrepreneurs group was really valuable. But for a lot of us, we're listening to people. We have people around us that we shouldn't be listening to them, right? There's just saying you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with. So I
Oh,
want to start being in rooms where people are way more wealthy than me. They have a 10x or 100x wealth that I have, or they have health that's I'm an athlete, but like much like farther ahead of where I'm at, or if it's spirituality, whatever these things are. So I think, was it hard for me to leave or to move? It was very challenging, but again, with the right people around me that were in that space, I think that was really how I made that shift.
so they pushed you like, hey, how's that resignation later happening? What's
Yeah,
going on?
yeah.
That's kind of was the
Kind of,
conversation.
yeah, they wanted me to leave right away. I was like, well, let me do it in 3 months or two
Let me
months. I
yeah, let's
know a
talk
guy.
later.
I knew a guy that was an engineer, and he basically had done similar to me, where he had replaced his income, or he was basically doing real estate and other things on the side, and he could not leave his job. And he was a guy
Mhm.
from his family's from India, and so he hired a mindset coach to help him quit his job. And his wife was like, "Why don't you need to hire a coach? Why don't you just quit your job?" He's like, "No, I just really need because like it's so like you work so hard. Some of these jobs are so competitive, right? I mean, like a
Right.
medical sales job, and there could be hundreds of people that
And you
apply for
worked
that
so hard
job.
to build this and then
Yeah,
let it go, something so secure, this, security blanket. It's so petrifying. And I
exactly.
feel like it's also mostly also connected to our parents. I felt same thing with you. My mom is she's a nurse, my dad is an engineer, blue collar, pension, government job, like secure, secure, secure. That's my mom's symbol of you made it type of thing. And when I told her, by the way, I moved in 21 when I was 21 to United States by myself to New York City to
Wow.
pursue to become an opera singer. Like,
Amazing.
yeah, but it didn't, it
It didn't
worked
work
out. I
out.
was performing, but and I also
Yeah.
went to teaching, but kind of decided that it's not for me and went to construction and sell and moved to also coaching and all that. It's kind of all connected in a weird way. Always kind of like looking backwards, it all kind of connects, but
Yeah.
this notion of leaving something and changing and evolving and be able to let go of what's no longer serving you is so important. And I feel our parents they build differently. They came from a different mindset and different background where they value security over anything. And
Yeah.
I think this generation is valuing freedom and authenticity over anything. And, by us almost leaving our secure job, it's almost like we are leaving our parents. We're
Yeah.
telling our parents, you're not good enough. And that's
Mm,
where our subconscious mind is so like we want to be part of the tribe. We want to belong. We don't want to disappoint our parents. Like the most important thing for children is to make sure their parents are happy because that's how they feel they're valued. And still now as grown-ups, as adults, we
mm,
kind of want to still to get that recognition from our parents, like, you did a great job. But we have
yeah.
to really see, like, hey, is their life is the life we want to live, or we are all going to be our own parents. We're going to give our own validation. We're not going to seek it from the people as much as we love them, from the people that are not really living our life to give us the approval of what the life we want to live. And I
Yeah.
think that is the important shift to make to really be honest with ourselves. Who we pleasing here, ourselves or somebody
Yeah.
else?
Our parents, someone else, a spouse. Yeah, there's all kinds of things. And I think for me, even like I mentioned, going through my divorce, that was a great time to do some personal work and just figure out, okay, what's important? What do I really want? And as I got older, I got approached 40. I was like, you know what? I don't want to live with regrets. I don't want to live. I feel like I have these great things inside of me that I want to create. And I'm geared differently in some ways than my parents and than other people. And I love my parents. They're amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like you're right, you have to be careful whose approval you're really looking for. And I think one thing that coming from a religious home and then going through divorce, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I kind of got to a place where I was like, I'd rather do what I feel is right in my heart than to live to try to please everybody else, right? Or everybody think. So I think that was very freeing in a way. That was one positive that came out of the divorce. But I do think that for all of us, it's so important again to figure out what it is we want and to go towards it, and just not to care as much what people think. I mean, obviously we have certain people we should care about what certain people think, but Brené Brown, I follow quite a bit of her stuff. Is really She talks about embracing a wholehearted life, and something you said too, like we're all worthy of love and belonging. There's no prerequisite for that. Just who we are. We're worthy of going after the things we want. There's no like nothing we should do to try to earn it. It's just like we just are worthy of it right off. And so as we move toward, becoming a more wholehearted person and just really figuring out, hey, how do we walk in a place where we're free? We're just more free to pursue the things that we want. And this is again how people have breakthroughs in business. They have breakthroughs in life as they really get into like, okay, well, what's stopping? What's in the way here? What are the things? Am I experiencing the joy I want to have? Am I having the income I want to have? Am I having the relationships I want to have? And if it's not, then it's time to try something different, right? Keep the end goal, get your goal there, and then figure out what you want and how to create it. So I think there's so much. Again, I love how much you're into personal development as well, Natalia, because it's like there's such a big link between success in business or happiness in life and other things, and it's just a lot of people don't make that connection. So I remember one time I was doing this real estate meetup, and I started talking about some of this personal development stuff, and the guy in like the second row just like give me faces like bitter face, like what are we like looking around like, am I in the right room kind of thing? And I'm thinking like, you're probably not in the right room because that's pretty much like about 80% of what this is. Like Tony Robbins says,
Exactly.
80% of success in life is just getting the right psychology. So I love that you're touching on this is really what you go and do because it's really how people make shifts in their life.
Listen, it's not about success, it's about happiness. Because what we want truly is the feeling. It's not about, okay, I will be honest. I came here wanting the American dream. I wanted this multiple six figures. I wanted all what success looked like. And I got it. And it didn't make me happy,
Hmm.
right? So it's really the question. And my approach to happiness, it's actually a muscle that we need to train because
Mm.
it's like anything else, right? It's really cultivated within you and not be dependent on anything external, like a spouse, like money, like even
Mhm.
health, anything, to really give yourself this unconditioned validation and knowing that you can tap into that any given moment. I think that's true freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom in the end of the day is not the money, it's not the location. I can be right now in a five-star hotel resort and be freaking miserable, right? It's a state. And that is what I think what really truly we need to focus on. Doesn't matter what you're into, how you can cultivate within you, how you can alkaline these feelings that we all been right now. Right now, we're in what we call in a financial crisis, right? Whatever you want to call it. Like how you navigate through all these things that were changes that happen collectively, personally to all of us right now, to really find that ground in within you, how you find that center, how you find your own happiness that is not
Mm.
dependent on anything external. That is true success to me. I
Yeah.
don't know. Let's just
Yeah,
say.
and I think yeah, you have to define what success is. You know, for some people, it's spending time with family, or it's having adventures, living out. But I love what you shared. I mean, it's really in a place where you are happy, you're fulfilled in your life, and I think sometimes happiness can be a little fleeting. Sometimes they talk about the pursuit of happiness, right? We're
Exactly.
but it's just contentment, being content with what we have, with where we're at. Because, if I have all I need versus somebody's always hungry for the next thing, the person who's always
Hmm.
hungry now, and again, the world celebrates, when we reward people that are always hungry. But, if I'm just never at a place of satisfaction, and I've heard stories like this, somebody's worth like, making $5 million a year. And they'll be happy when these certain things
Hmm.
happen. They don't have any problems with their kids, and when they're making $10 million or whatever, well, then they're never going to be happy. And so I think it's the idea of you have to take the time to celebrate the wins. You've got to just really enjoy the people around you, really, live the life. Otherwise, it's always going to be the life deferred plan. So I think it's like life is happening right now.
So how you cultivate happiness? What's your kind of rituals? What helps you to keep you in check to really make sure that you're tap into that as much as you can, obviously?
Yeah, so I have my morning routines. I kind of read, here's my values, my whisperings that I do. I do something called a mind movie, which is something I discovered recently where you play a movie of some things in your life that you're trying to create in your life. And then so that kind of gets me centered to go on a walk in the morning. And then, like I've had some stress in the business sometimes where that'll come up, where I've got to do some journaling or recenter or go get a good workout or just be able to talk to a friend about it. But life is so dynamic, right? There's so many different elements of it. And I think it's important to like continue to reflect, continue to come back, have thoughts on it, do the work, reflect on what's happening, what's not. And sometimes it's harder. I've had times where it's really hard for me to get away and reflect on things that are happening because they're not good things. Like they're really challenging things. But then again, I just think it's important. So I don't know if I really have a silver bullet on how to create that. I think gratitude is a huge one, really living from a place of gratitude because Brené Brown will say in her research that there's a direct link between people that express joy in their life, and joy is not just happiness. It's like I may be going through something hard, but I see the purpose in it, and I'm doing it. Might even be suffering, but it's like it's for a good cause, right? So if I'm suffering, my daughter's 12 years old, if I'm doing something that's kind of helping her, but it causes me discomfort or suffer, like I'll happily do that because I find joy in that, right? So if I can be grateful that, hey, I have a daughter to be able to sacrifice for, or I have, a situation in life that's challenging at work, or something comes up and it's uncertain, it's like, okay, well, I'm grateful I have this, right? If I didn't have this, or, if I didn't have that, or I have health that I can be able to enjoy it, it just kind of leads you to this place of abundance where you're like, okay, I've got something here, right? Everything I have, it's like I didn't have it before. It's just life is such an interesting thing. It's constantly from when you're born, you're continually gaining things. Like everything's a gain in a way, right? Everything is just continually a gain. And then of course we lose things, we lose people, we lose other things. So it's just being grateful for the things and people in our life that we have when we have them. And I don't know if I really have a magical way to go through it, but I've noticed I experience a lot more joy and happiness when I'm a grateful person.
You know what helped me is to stop putting things in the categories of good and bad.
Hmm.
Let's start there, right? And
Yeah.
understanding that everything is just information and everything is just a reflection of my inner either consciousness, self-belief, whatever it is just reflecting to me. Just give me the information of where I need to still grow, where I still need to let go of certain things or ideas or identities that don't no longer serving me. And instead of feeling okay, today is raining, oh, it means I'm not gonna have a good day, right? Or whatever, or this deal fell through. Oh, I'm not having like a good day. How we can always find, as you said, through gratitude and what we call the law of focus, because nothing is good or bad. Everything is neutral. Everything is a
Yeah.
perception and perspective anyway. How we can neutralize it if we call it bad, how we can neutralize it by finding the good in it. And
Yeah.
we always will if we're gonna actually take a minute and actually look into it. And even looking back to all the things that we thought that were bad in our life, we can look back and say, wow, but this led me to this, and this made me be this kind of person. And this, like, nothing is good or bad. Everything is neutral. And I think once we can just, instead of waiting years to look back at it and kind of seeing in that kind of perspective while we're going through it, neutralize and really find what is the good in it, I think it's going to be eliminate so much suffering, because it's not about the bad thing that happens to us, it's the suffering that we put into that and just kind of like milking it and prolonging it more than it should.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I completely agree. It's like we interpret things as being bad, but the bad things in my life that have happened, the hard things, I got fired from a job. I've only been fired from one job. It was kind of a unique story, but it was kind of like it
You?
happened.
No way.
I did. I got fired from one job. I was actually, so my past life, I was a youth pastor. So I was, like I said, I had a faith background, everything. And I was, I moved to another state, take a job. And then we had 200, I was a high school youth pastor, had 200 kids. And then we went down to like 130, 150 kids. And it was all kind of success is numbers, and like butts and seats. Like that was success. And so after about a year and a half there, they just said, yeah, but just really abruptly after Christmas break, they were like, yeah, we just don't think it's a good fit. And your last day is Tuesday. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I just moved out here. I just got married. Oh my, like I bought a house. Like
Oh
what in the
my
world?
God.
So I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, my life is over, like whatever. But then it took a couple years. And then I went from that to like, fixing this house up, moving back to Los Angeles, got a job in the medical field, got another job, ended up being shortly. So about 2 years after that, I ended up being the number one person out of 100 salespeople. And it was like 3 or 4 times the money, being given awards, giving speeches on the stage. I mean, just like, I'm just like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, God, what do you, but like at the time, it was like, my life is over, but it became
Mm,
that everything is like it's all going to work out. So that's the whole thing that I just in my faith I realized that nothing happens to us, it happens for us. Even the worst
100%.
thing, like if we can use everything, there's always a silver lining, and we can miss it if we get bitter, if we get if we get in the emotions of it. And we can. It's a good to feel the emotions too, but it's also like, what if all of this is just part of a plan to make us a better, stronger, more powerful, more alive, more healthy, more giving person? What if it's all just part of that plan, right? And so that in a way, everything is, like you said, just information, but it's actually, it can become good. It can become something that we look back
Mhm.
and say, I really learned compassion because I went through this. Or I really learned not to judge people because I went through a divorce. Or I really got fired from this job, but it taught me about this certain thing. It led me to this other career. So like, I've seen that again and again and again. And sometimes it's taken years, but like I've seen that kind of element in my life. So I think that for anyone who's struggling, it's just like, know that, it will work together for good if, as long as you commit to the process. And even when you give it, sometimes if you come back, like it'll still be there.
100%. So talking about that, let's say somebody right now building, let's say a business through whatever he's passionate about, or even a passive income, and it's just not working out. And it takes another year and another year and another year. What would kind of advice would you give them to kind of navigate this situation where they still want to make a certain money? They're not ones who want to kind of burn the bridge and go all in on their business or all in on this passive endeavor, because they do need the income, because whatever they have obligations as parents or whatever it may be. What would you tell them?
Yeah, well, I think that I give a couple different pieces of advice. I have a friend who's going through this. They work in their business. It's been like they've been doing this for 10 or 12 years, and it's like they feel like it's just right around the corner. They're going to get some breakthrough. But it's really not working. I mean, it's kind of like a break even thing. I mean, the guy works, way more hours than I do, and it's just like I kind of feel bad for him. So it's like he's not getting the results he wants to get. So I think it's that process, like I shared. You have to look and see, like, do I see a way to kind of make this work? Am I seeing progress? And maybe for him, it might be better to say, hey, let me shut this down and go work for somebody who's really doing well. Go work for them for a few years and just see, and maybe become a partner there or do something else. Like, it's not for everybody. Being an entrepreneur is not for everybody, right? You have to be much more risk tolerant. You have to be okay with things kind of being up in the air a lot of the time, as having multiple businesses, and hopefully, people are, things are stable. We'll have deals that, that work, that don't work out, then people get upset. There's risk of things, lawsuits. There's risks of all different types of things, right? So I think, but I think for someone who says, yeah, this is taking longer than I want, it's not working, but the dream is in your heart, and you really want to do it. You want to give it a good shake. A lot of times we really do quit right before something great happens. And there's this famous story called 3 Feet from Gold, where there's a book out called 3 Feet from Gold as well. But this guy basically digs this hole and he gives up. And he literally, this is like in the gold rush, he gives up and he goes back. And then years later, somebody goes back in and they found this guy was only 3 feet away from the biggest like gold vein that anybody's ever found up
Yes.
to the point. So it's the idea, like, again, if it's something that you're committed to, and you're truly committed, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's just you have to find joy in that process. If you hate doing it and you like hate going to work, whatever, well, maybe you're just kind of like, it's not really the thing. Some of life is like, hey, I want to get this thing down the road, but if you can't find the joy in what you're doing right now, and if you're just like beating your head, there's certain things, like for me, if you put forms in front of me, or if I was doing data entry, like I would not be a happy camper. That would not be something like I'd rather go sell things or speak. But a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I'd rather die than do sales. So you have to figure out kind of what's a good fit for you. But I think that also friends and your community can kind of help you discern and say, hey, should I keep going in this, or do you think I should stop? And not listening to people that have never done it, but people that are actually in those trenches and have done that before, that they can give feedback to that. Because if you ask your family, family or you ask friends that have never done that, have been in that spot, they're going to give you terrible advice. They're going to, oh, you should go back to this other thing. You have to talk to people that are kind of in that arena. Like there's that quote about the man in the arena where it says, it's not the critic that counts, it's the man who's actually in the arena who
Right.
knows. And Brené Brown will say, if you're not in the arena, like getting your ass kicked, like I don't care what you think about what I'm doing. Right. If you're not actually in there, like I don't really care. But if somebody is, then yes, please speak into my life.
Yeah, I think it's an individual case by case situation. Everybody has a different reason why it's not working. Some people think, oh, because I'm not committed enough and I just need to quit my job and go in on your business and then it's going to blow up. And I actually seen the opposite. A lot of people, those people actually struggling and they
Yeah.
feeling more of a failure and then more stressful. And then when money doesn't come in, whenever they're trying to sell, it's so icky and it's so sticky and nobody wants to buy from that kind of energy. So it's even more worse. And it's really important again, coming back to the mindset,
Yeah.
coming back to what is it about you that don't allow it, what is your upper limit basically? What is it that you're afraid when your business is going to be successful? What is the limit to believe? What is it you believe is going to happen that your body or subconscious trying to actually protect you from?
Yeah.
And that is what I found a lot of times. That was kind of like what was really holding them back because they thought if I'm going to actually make more money through my business, because again, it's our mind, our subconscious is like a toddler, right? It doesn't think rationally. It's just whatever we think is true, but it's not. Oh, I'm going to be owning so much taxes. I don't want to pay taxes or stuff like that. Or
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to hold so many people, or what if I'm going to fail them, or like thoughts like that that you don't even think consciously, but that is what's running again 98% of your life as your
Yeah.
subconscious. And maybe your dad used to be entrepreneur and he lost all his money and that's why your family got separated and you're trying to protect yourself from this happen again to you because you're so traumatized by that, right? There's so many reasons why, but I feel it's always comes back to the mindset. It always comes back to what is the story you're telling yourself of
Yeah.
what actually is going to happen when it's going to be successful, and then clearing it so you actually can whatever is going to happen. Maybe you're not meant to be an entrepreneur, but you're at least going to work from a more flow state and not from this resistant and feel like you're not meant to do this. Like if you absolutely love to do something, it's meant for you. It's just the capacity, the container can be different. And be a business owner, it's a completely different container. It's not like you're going to be doing what do you love 24/7. No, you're going to be wearing many hats and maybe you're going to do 20% of it of what it actually you really want to do. So maybe that is not the best route for you, but I think it's a great opportunity. And I feel like being a business owner and entrepreneur is such a beautiful way to show your deepest fears and expose them and like really face them
Yeah.
hands on more than anything else I think I found in my life. What do you think?
Oh, I think 100%. Yeah, I think it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, you have stuff comes up and I mean, I'm in an entrepreneurs group and it's like everybody's been through it at some point where if you're not staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning, wondering how things are going to work or how you're going to make payroll or something, like it's probably around the corner. I mean, there's a few people I know that have actually gone in business. Even people that are wildly successful. You look I was reading an article on Elon Musk. I mean, he basically like he bought
Yeah.
X, which was, Twitter, and it basically almost went bankrupt in the first year. And then he
I
basically
didn't
was able
know.
to merge it. They just had an article in the Wall Street Journal about this. He merged it with the AI component, and now it's worth like $100 billion. It's worth way more than it was. But
Hmm.
like being able to deal with uncertainty and being able to deal
Oh,
with like it's hard. But I think again you have to say the goal is not piles of money. The goal is not material success or how it looks to awards or these kind of accolades. It's like the goal is learning and growth and becoming a better person, and hopefully those other things will come as well, and that's we all want those things. But it's like if so if I work on a deal for 6 to 12 months and it does not work out, or we're trying to close this business that we're working on now, it may or may not work out to close it, right? But if it doesn't work, I'm still a better person because I went through it, right? I'm still growing, I'm still moving towards. So there's learning, there's things that happen we can't even put into words. So
amazing. I'm going to ask you this last question. What does
sure.
effortlessly abundant life means to you?
I think effortlessly abundant life. I think it means I think it means really living life on your own terms, really being happy with who you are, being content, and really living a purpose-filled life that's consistent with your values. If you live according to your values, if you have the freedom financially, freedom to express yourself, freedom to be around people that you care about, I think those are all parts of that abundant life. And so I think that's what we all want. And I love that you're creating that here as well, Natalia.
Amazing. I was so, so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. Where people can find you, obviously, we're going to put all the links in the show notes, but tell us a little bit more about Fire Yourself, where we can find it, where we can,
Sure.
if people want to work with you and ways they
Sure.
can work with
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
or be in your area, just let us know.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so I have this guide that I put together. I'll give it as a free gift to your audience. It's how to use inflation to your advantage. So instead of just getting the pain at the pump, the pain in the grocery stores, there's ways through using real estate, debt, precious metals, other things, something probably most people haven't heard of. So it's this guide right here, how to use inflation to your advantage. You can text the word inflation to 33777. So if you text the word inflation to 33777, we'll send that to you for free. It'll ask for your email, and then we'll let you know kind of about our upcoming stuff and our deals and things like that too.
Incredible. Thank you so, so much, Bronson. Again, such a
Thanks so much,
pleasure.
Natalia.
And as I said, if we're going to have more questions and more things kind of come up as these audience obviously love this interview and they have more to ask, we're going to do this again. But thank you so, so much. I appreciate
So
it.
fun. Thanks so much, Natalia. It's great.
Thank you, dear.